You are listening to The Mountainside, and returning to the studio is MMA expert, commentator, and podcast host, Jordan Kurtz. We talked about so much today, what he's doing on the local scene here in Colorado, and breaking down UFC 324, 325, and its premiere on Paramount. Jordan is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to combat sports and what's to come for the UFC, Colorado Combat Club, competitive jiu-jitsu, and so much more. This was a great conversation. Enjoy the episode. And we are live. Jordan Kurtz,
my man,
back on the mountainside, brother.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to be up here, man. It's always a pleasure coming up here to Evergreen. I mean, I love the scenery around the town anyway, and right now it's still got a little bit of that moisture from the snowstorm that we had last week, so it's just kind of cool driving up, seeing a little bit of the cap on the mountains, the way that the colors hit the sky, the big cross on the mountain as you're driving up 285.
Isn't that rad?
Oh, dude, it's awesome. I just love coming up this way.
That's one of my favorite things, coming up the mountain and seeing that cross. Like, I remember looking at that as a little kid, like going out the window, and you just knew that was home.
Yep.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool in that sense, but I appreciate you for having me back on.
Yeah, man. Always, dude. You're an OG. I think, God, I don't know, you were early on. You were in the first, 50 episodes. We were just talking about recording next door. So, yeah, it's cool because this has turned into such a community, and I'm so lucky with all the people that I had no idea actually lived right in this awesome place.
Yep.
Or close enough by to come up. And
absolutely.
Yeah, the mountainside's just turned into something totally different from where I started, and it's awesome, man. It's all because of your guys' support too.
Oh man, it's so cool to see the way that you guys have grown it in the process, the way that you have been able to expand your network, and then also in the process just leveled up the game with the studio expansion, with upping the game with the technology, with, we were just talking about it too before, like back in the day, if you were starting a podcast, when I was first on around 2020-ish around in there, and when I was first starting with my podcasting game way back when, you could kind of get your foot in the door with just using a little simple voice recorder or a little USB-based mics with a GoPro or, some, lack of a better term, some shitty cameras out there. But now the market has just changed and you have kept pace with it. You've got, high-scale 4K cameras all across the board, hitting all angles here in the mix, Shure mics, the crazy mic arms, all of that. You can tell that you've invested in the product and it's paid back for you.
Man, I'm so lucky because I think a lot of podcasters aren't in this space to where we got sponsorship right away. We had some people support us right away. And then the fan base has just constantly grown. And it's without them, we're freaking nothing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it lets me, it's an avenue for me to do what I love and then also upgrade the studio,
Definitely.
That's the best part.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it all, obviously, we have fun being able to do what we do, hopping on a mic and doing this. I've got all of my different avenues where I'm talking all the time. But, you in this sense, you have a faithful audience and a base that follows you in the process, supports what you guys do. So it's awesome to see that not only that, you still are having fun with it years later in the process, but that you've been able to maintain that faithful fan base that continues to rock with you and grows by the episode.
Yeah, I'm never quitting. Never going to stop.
I never going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, we might change avenues eventually or something if we get completely shut off, With some of the episodes that we've had, they've gotten pretty wild. They've gotten pretty Western, So
oh yeah,
we've had a few threats here or there, and we've even had some threats from the U.S. government. And,
I can imagine. Because you've had some interesting people that have
people
had
say too much,
crazy lives, It's awesome though.
Yeah, no, I love doing it, man. I think if I didn't make a dime off of this, I would still do it.
That's a beautiful thing about it too. Coach Mark told me all the way back when, hey, if that the mark of if you really love something or if you really have a passion for it is if you would still do it for free.
Right.
And that was something that he told me. We were sitting in, it was still back before he even had the couple of trucks. We were out on a pheasant hunt. It was me, him, Anthony Smith, Wyatt, and a couple of his buddies. We were somewhere way out east. I don't even know where it was at. But like I say, we're out in the middle of a snowstorm on a pheasant hunt. And he's just giving me this, grown man sort of talk, this coming of age sort of speech. That was when I was still just a pup in the game and just telling me that, hey, at some point in time, you're going to have to make some big boy decisions and spread your wings and fly. Have some faith and take the jump. I was still halfway in, halfway out with working a corporate job back then, and that was a couple of months before I quit my job and pursued everything full time. And, years later, here we are.
Yeah. Back when you had long hair, dude.
Long hair. And he hated it. He absolutely hated it.
Yeah. Didn't you? I think maybe we talked about this prior to the podcast, but didn't you lose the haircut by a bet or something like that? Or he was going to make you cut and then you won the match? Or,
yep. That's exactly
like it was over a jiu-jitsu match or some shit, right?
Yeah. So just to recap, in case we did say it before or anybody else out there has heard me tell it, we were out at UFC 241 out in Anaheim, California. I'm shooting media for the week. I hadn't done any sort of jiu-jitsu or hadn't trained any bit at that point. The last time that I had been on a mat competitively was wrestling when I was like 14 years old. And so flash forward 15 years later, we're out there in Southern California, and he hated my long hair. We're cutting weight in the morning.
He doesn't have a hair on his head, by the way.
No, not at all. And I mean, he's old school alpha in that sense, hates the long hair, hates all that sort of shit in the process. But we're waiting for the coffee, and it's like 6:20. It's set on the itinerary. Because usually with the UFC, everything is down to the minute. Like it is buttoned up. There is the itinerary, and things are almost to the second you could time them. Well, the coffee was like 20 minutes late that morning, and we're going through helping guys finish cut weight. It was Ian Heinisch and Devontae Smith that were fighting on that card.
Damn, a while ago.
It was, this was 2019. So this was August 2019, like I say, UFC 241. And the guy comes pushing the coffee cart down, and he just, I was like, oh yeah, coffee's here. Awesome. And he just sizes me up and just goes, not for you. And you could tell this dude was having a rough morning. And so Coach Mark just starts talking crazy to me. He's just like, you think he's mad because of your hair? Like, what are you talking about, Coach? Because I'd been sitting in the sauna, cutting weight with guys all of that morning. So, I look like a crazy Einstein sort of hair all over the place, wasn't tied to anything. And he's like, well, your hair, like, it's just kind of all over the place. Think he's pissed off about that? And so we just back and forth banter a little bit, and then circle back to after both guys make weight, we're sitting at the breakfast place, and Coach Mark just like, he's sitting there, and you see a light bulb go off in his head. I'm sitting right across from him. I still have all of this on video because I was shooting content for those guys that week. He goes, I've got it. Jordan, you and Nate, this other guy who was one of Ian's boys who had been training. Mind you, they were also going to be training at CT Fletcher's gym the day after the fight. I don't know if you know CT Fletcher.
Dude, he's a bucket list for me, man.
Like, yes, that was one of the coolest videos that I've ever shot in my life.
That's so cool. Did Telly go down with you too?
I think, Coach Eric was there too. Yeah.
That's awesome,
he was there for that as well.
Yeah, so we've heard that side of the story, but I've never heard your side. Man, CT Fletcher, what a stud, dude. Like, I love that guy.
I've got a video of him staring right down the barrel of the cannon and said, I don't give a fuck what happens. It is still your motherfucking set. And gives me the flex, right? Like, dude, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It was such a crazy, cool experience and like a pinch me moment that this guy that I've watched on YouTube videos, like for workout stuff for years. But again, mind you, I had not been working out, training, whatever. I was just a media guy back then at that point. And so Nate, this other guy, he had been training. So he was doing martial arts. He was doing some jiu-jitsu, all of that at the gym back then at the time. But B, he had also been doing a lot of strength and conditioning stuff because they were going to go through CT's gauntlet workout. And so he wanted to be able to go through that. And then also, guys wanted to all be able to take the shirt off, look good on camera, all that sort of thing. So he had been training. He had been doing a lot of stuff. Don't get this twisted. Coach Mark thought that I was going to lose. Like, he thought that he was throwing me in a match that I was going to go get my ass whooped, and I was going to have to shave my hair that afternoon at the Airbnb when everybody was coming to get their haircuts.
That was the wager, though, right? Like,
So I was just saying, like, first off, like, well, what the fuck does he win? Like, what do I get? What happens if I win? And Coach just gives me the look of well, you get the greatest satisfaction of all. You get to say you whooped that motherfucker's ass. So that was, again. Right. At that moment, I knew that it was more than about just the hair. It was more of a gut check. It was more of a, what kind of stones does this kid have? Does he have heart? Yeah. And so we have our grappling match. Bobby, we're in a room full of people at the Hilton in Anaheim. This was where they had the mats at the hotels.
It's like a warm-up room or something?
Yeah, it was a warm-up room, and you shared that with other camps and whatnot. So there was a lot of DC's people, the AKA people that were also in the room, on top of Ian used to travel with an entire posse. We had a ring card girl. We weighed in front of the UFC blue shirts. Like Dean, the head of the backstage operations,
No
the
way.
guy who like controls everything. Dean weighed us
So
in.
everybody's in on this. There's probably side bets going on.
Oh, dude, we had a full room. Both of these guys, who it was their fight week, they're live streaming it on their social medias. So there's a couple of people that are tuned in live online watching it. We go at it like 3 yards in a cloud of dust for 5 minutes. Goes to a draw, but I made him puke. So in a way, and then Coach Mark afterwards was like, well, in the fight game or in MMA, if you make somebody puke, that's TKO. So like that was just kind of a little bit of I guess a feather in my cap in the process. But then that night we're sitting at the Airbnb, and so naturally, I didn't lose, so I didn't have to cut my hair. And part of that wager was also that if I didn't lose, that he would have to stop giving me shit about my hair. And so, and to his credit, he never did. But we're sitting at the Airbnb that night afterwards. It's me, Coach Mark, Austin Jones, and Coach G, Coach Greg Juarez. And Coach is just sitting there. He's got, I'm pretty sure he had like a little cup of Buffalo Trace, something like that. We're sitting across in the living room, and he just has this big old ear-to-ear grin on his face looking at me across the room. He's like, what's up, Coach? He's like, JK, bet you have an overwhelming sense of fulfillment right now, don't you? And like, yeah, Coach, I feel awesome. And then he said, yeah, I challenge you today, son. You stepped the fuck up. I'm proud of you. And you want to talk about like the biggest, like, I kept my poker face as much as I could in the room. Like, I'm sure I was probably beaming at that point, but that was like the biggest like beats chest moment that I've had in, I can't even tell you within my life, of him just saying that, like, that I'm proud of you, blah, 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 that sort of line. But yeah, that was the whole story of the hair match, and I didn't lose. You
train pretty regularly now, though, right? Like every day.
Oh yeah, that was.
You're in the gym.
That was the catalyst of things getting going. On the drive to dinner that night, he even told me, he's like, "Hey, so we're gonna start training now, or what?" Like, shit, if that's on the table, if you're gonna allow me to train, I will absolutely start training. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And so then started off just 3-4 times a week, getting into it, and then now it's a regular, almost. We're open 6 days a week. I'm there almost every day of the week in the process that we're open. So yeah, it's just became. Rad. I went from being somebody who just was more on the media side or on the outside looking in of martial arts and combat sports to becoming a martial artist in mind, body, soul, all of that. Competed a bunch in grappling, train all the time in all different arts now, whether it's Muay Thai to grappling to Coach Mark now has the MMA class, a regular fixture in that class. The only one that I missed was I had just gotten a tattoo that day, so couldn't go train that night. But yeah, I've been to every other MMA class that he's had in the process. Yeah, I love it.
It's rad, man. I love it too, man. Like there's nothing better than that. I've hung it up the last couple of years just because I keep injuring myself. You'll figure this out at 45.
Oh, I'm not too far behind you, brother.
Yeah.
Not that much.
Yeah. But no, that's awesome. I'm sure that's got to translate over into your commentary.
Absolutely.
So you can talk jiu-jitsu language and all that sort of stuff and understand what's really going on. I never took jiu-jitsu until my kids started taking it. And I was like hanging out at the gym, and the Coach Dave was like, hey, why don't you hop on the mat? We have an adult class or whatever. You can go with your kids. And I was like, yeah. And I had that wrestling bug, I was missing that, but I had never trained jiu-jitsu. And boy, when I did, I was like, man, this makes the UFC so much more interesting to watch. I was already a huge fan.
Right.
But now I can understand like the actual technical side of stuff and started to learn what things were called and certain submissions and how you could get put in that submission. It's rad.
Yeah, just to an entire different degree, because I feel like I already had a considerably high IQ in the process for someone who was just on the outside looking in terms of being able to verbally illustrate what was going on and being able to just orate the action from a play-by-play standpoint and from an analyst perspective. But then once I started training, it just leveled the game up as far as being able to give that much better of a picture and more insight as to what's happening. I can do the color commentary role, but obviously I'm much better suited on the play-by-play end of things just because I don't have the high-level fight experience like some of my counterparts do on the broadcast, whether it's where I've had in the past guys like Art Petrosian, Cody Brundage, Josh Fremd, Yusuf Zalal, Elias Rodriguez, a lot of these guys out there. Or in CJJC in the grappling world, I do it with Trevor O'Connor, who Trevor's also had a bunch of fights. Trevor's had a lifetime now of experience on the combat sports world and is another guy who's just incredibly brilliant on the mic. He's the only other guy who out there who he can really kind of throw the zingers in. Usually I'm the one goosing everybody else and throwing the lines off to kind of see how red I can get them. Or just in the sense of like, like saying something kind of off color or wild. Like the last time he tried to get me with, he's sitting in the missionary position line. And I just had to talk right through it because otherwise I was going to do exactly that. I just had to keep on running through.
I can do what you guys do because I can't control my mouth. Yeah. This is the perfect platform for me because I can say whatever I want, however I want, and nobody's going to bash me or get fired, I guess. I'm my own boss.
Yeah, no, that's the best part with it. And, I guess I'm blessed with being on a pay-per-view platform, so sometimes we can let it rip a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's, it's just one of the funnest things in the world to be able to sit cage side and call fights, or whether it's 5280 with the Muay Thai scene where Colorado's only all Muay Thai exclusive promotion. I do CJJC, Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club. We have a couple of different combat formats for that where it's just grappling within a cage, and it's as close to a hybrid MMA match as you could possibly have. Slams are legal. All submissions are legal for all belt levels.
I need to start coming to more of these.
We have our next, it's going to be a big weekend, Super Bowl weekend, just for everybody's information out there. On the 7th, we have our annual Grapple Bowl event for CJJC. So it's a huge grappling show that we have there. And then the next day after that is going to be Colorado Combat Club 28. So that's going to be during the day. So you'll be out before Super Bowl starts, but based off of some situations with the commission, that's an entire different story, which I have frustrations with them, but that's a whole different point. But yeah, we have to have our 28 show. That was originally supposed to be on the 31st, now going to be on the 8th. But so I've got back-to-back days of shows there. But yeah, CJJC, man, I love a lot of the things that we're doing with that. We just had we do little subsection games that are called grapple games events, where we've done Karjitsu, we've done attack bands. Yeah. Oh, dude,
so like
awesome.
We're getting into the Russian side of stuff, right? Like that stuff is wild. Some
little like niche games in the mix. Grapple bands was another one that we did. So it was basically, it's kind of like, in wrestling where you would have like, toe tag or like trying to grab each other's like ankles or playing a game in that sense. But you have the strap around the ankle and you're trying to either snatch that or get a submission in the process. You could also end the round by suicide in a sense, or I don't know what we say, suey wooey, but by pulling your own band. So if you're about to get submitted and you have the chance to pull your own, well, then you save yourself for that round. And then you could go on to the next round. It would be a best 2 out of 3. Yeah. So say someone's trying to triangle you and you might be close. Well, you can reach down and grab your own and you get to survive and go to the next round. But,
so it almost makes it like a draw in a sense.
Yeah, it deducts points in that sense. We have a whole point system. Wow. We did another iteration of it this last week, or it was on the 5th.
Is any of this online? Can we pull any of this up?
Yeah, it's all on the CJJC Cage online, or on the YouTube channel and on Instagram.
Nice. We'll give these guys a shout out. Is it a Colorado organization?
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yep. All based out of Colorado. Stephen Paprocki is the owner of it. His wife, Kat, is also a fighter here in Colorado. She's fought MMA, BKFC. She was actually the main event of our last show. And what I liked about our last format was we did it to where you had to go for something measured. Your attack had to be something specific. So each competitor for each round, it was 3 by 3 minute rounds. You went into the broadcast booth room and you had to draw your submission out of a hat.
Really?
So that was the only finish that you could go for in that round. So say you drew a guillotine, well, the only thing that you could attack was a guillotine. That's the only thing that you could finish.
Wow.
Armbar, triangle, whatever, key lock sort of variation, that was all something that you would be able to, that was the only thing that you could be able to go to. So it brought just a different level of competition to it. Whereas, sometimes you can find whatever's there. There might be just whatever submission that you fall into, or there might be your go-to attack. Well, if that's not your go-to attack, you better figure out how to get it, because that's the only way that you're going to win this round or potentially win the competition with. Yeah, I love having that wrinkle with it. And then naturally with my baby, the bread and butter of what I love doing is Colorado Combat Club. Obviously, just being MMA at my roots. Yeah, I've got a large background in grappling, but MMA is my baby. That is what I absolutely love doing more than anything. I'm a I'm a sucker for the violence, Bobby.
Yeah, me too. No, that's awesome. So when selecting a car for this, what is there a standard car? Is it like a Kia? Is it a Volkswagen?
It's like one of those like Fusion Ford type car. Not like a Ford Fusion directly that model, but like one of those like crossover type. It's like halfway between a car and an SUV. But yeah, Paparazzi has one that's gimmicked specifically for it. We've got camera mounts, all that sort of thing that are directly in the car. So it's like the perfect sort of experience for car jitsu. We'll probably bring that back out once it gets to the summertime. Or once it starts getting warm again, just because.
Yeah, are they doing this indoors? Like they pull the car inside and.
We did it right outside of their gym. So his gym is DCO in the north end of Denver, and we did it right outside in the parking lot. We had a crowd that was out there. You know, we have our DJ, everything. It was basically like, you know, imagine like a cookout, but there's scraps going on.
Nice.
Yeah, that was kind of how that one was going. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, this
stuff is wild, man.
Because Arkansas right here.
It's like Jason Bourne training, you know?
It's super cool. There's just such a rich combat sports scene in Colorado overall.
It's huge.
There's another show that I'm not a part of, but I love watching what they do. It's called the John Wick Invitational, where these guys dress up in suits. They basically like you're grappling in a suit and tie.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty dope thing that they do, and then in overtime they give you like a rubber gun, and so you could or they throw it out to the mat so you could die by or you can be finished by a shot.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just like cool. I say, it's some pretty cool stuff all the way around. It happens kind of in the pit format. I've had a couple of buddies like Caleb Crump, DeAnthony Muniz, some of those guys who have competed on that show. But yeah, we've had just a lot of great combat sports stuff that's gone on in the state of Colorado, and you know, I'm blessed to be a part of so many different pieces of it. Whether it's I've done a bunch of boxing shows in the past, but again, MMA is my baby. Colorado Combat Club, I think, is the pinnacle of MMA in Colorado. There's a couple of other shows that are out there, and they have great fights too. But I think that as far as the consistency and quality, I think that we supersede everybody in that process.
It's a great organization, man. Like they put on a good show. There's good commentary. I mean, you have the UFCs watching that, right? To send guys to the Contender Series or maybe even get called up straight as an alternate or...
Yeah, we've been fortunate we've only been around for a couple of years. We started right before COVID hit, so obviously that kind of hit everybody in the live event industry to a certain extent, but...
Crushed it.
Given that we've only basically been around for, you know, within like 5 years-ish around in that process, under 30 shows total. We've had multiple guys that we've graduated, if you will, onto bigger shows. And then we've had vets from big shows that have then, once they were out of those major organizations, come back down and fight for us. We had, as far as guys that have gone on to bigger shows, one of the big names that we had as a champion as an amateur, one of our first champions at that was Markel Medeiros. Markel Medeiros now is crushing in the UFC. I think he's like 11-1 total as far as his pro record goes. We've had guys that have gone on to the Contender Series like Jacoby Jones. Other guys that are in the UFC, though, Luis Grillet, Denver native. He was also a state champion wrestler at Sheridan High School, went on and wrestled in college, went 10-0 on the regional scene, local and regional scene, all the way up into Contender Series, wins on Contender, and then is now in the UFC, has a fight scheduled in a few weeks. Elijah Swift-Smith, he was one of our champions as an amateur as well as a pro. And crazy enough, the guy that he beat to win our pro championship was Robert the Real Deal Trujillo, who is now the Power Slap world champion.
Really?
So yeah, it's just kind of a crazy turn that Robert, you know, kind of went on and had an amazing opportunity that way, and has gotten a chance to make himself a worldwide name. Made a lot of money doing Power Slap.
I got to be honest, I don't watch Power Slap, but
I don't watch a ton, but I'll follow for him, just because it's, you know, because
if you know somebody and you're then you're a little bit more invested in the
definitely. And I've never actually been to one of their events, but a lot of my friends like Yusuf, Brandon, a lot of those guys, Yusuf Zalal, Brandon Royval, those guys have gone out to them. A lot of the UFC guys who have been out in Vegas, you know, they'll usually have those on like a Thursday night or somewhere around in there. And it's kind of like to give the people who don't, I guess, have maybe a relational sense but could understand something otherwise. It's like a big mixer. It's kind of like it's a big social gathering and a networking event where there's just kind of going about shaking hands, kissing babies with a lot of people out there in the crowd, but then there happens to every few minutes there's somebody up on the stage that are slapping each other. So It's just kind of like
awesome.
a big social event,
Yeah.
as it's been described to me. Like I said, I've never directly been to one, but that's how those guys have said that it kind
Yeah,
of is.
I think most of them are like invite only. I don't think they like sell tickets to that I know of. Yeah,
I honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of times it's, it's influencers, the streamers, the sort of those people that they choose to have there at those events, if it is by a selection basis, or those are just people who can, with the select amount of tickets that they do have available, they're probably want some people that are going to help grow the brand and amplify it in that sense. But yeah, that's those were a couple of those guys that have gone on to the big show. We've had a couple of other guys go and be a part of the UFC. We had some big names, rest in peace, Elias Theodoro, who was a UFC veteran, who he fought for us on Colorado Combat Club 10. And that was, he fought and he didn't realize that he had cancer at the time. And then a couple months later, unfortunately, lost his battle to cancer, but he fought a Strikeforce and a other major organization veteran in that fight. Yeah, we've had other guys like Justin J. Train Gonzalez, who he fought in both PFL and Bellator. He's actually going to be on our next card for Colorado Combat Club 28. Edwin Chavez, who was also a Bellator vet, he's fought on our cards. Colin Anglin, who was a UFC veteran, he's fought for us. So we've had some real exciting names that have fought on bigger platforms. Hussam El Khazri, who he was a Glory kickboxing vet, he's going to be on our next show. So,
oh, nice.
And he's actually, I think, that fight, man, that's going to be a banger of a fight, because the kid who he's fighting, Connor Leonard, this kid is a bad son bitch. He won Fight of the Year last year, him and Brandon Waters.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. What's the card that's coming up? Is it on ColoradoCombatClub.com?
So if you look up on Instagram, CO Combat Club, CO Combat Club, that's going to be for Colorado Combat Club, and it's Connor Leonard against Hussam El Khazri. That, to me, right away, that's the fight on the card right there to go and see, because both of these guys bring it. Neither one of them has ever had a boring fight. They are hellfire and brimstone every single time that they step in there. Connor Leonard and Brandon Waters, they had easily one of the best fights that I've ever seen in person. That was the best fight that I've ever done commentary for. That was at Colorado Combat Club 26 in October. That fight was basically, that was our Colorado version of Robbie Rory 2, which to me, that's still, that's my holy grail of fights. That fight at UFC 189, that co-main event, that was arguably, I mean, it has to be on anybody's Mount Rushmore of fights. It's a top 4 all time. To me, it's the greatest fight ever. I also had the chance to meet Robbie this last September when I was working at XFC and Baroka show out in Vegas, and that was like another one of those pinch me moments. Like, just keep on having those things, Bobby. It's crazy. I'm blessed to live the life that I live.
It's so rad, man. I mean, you've been at this a while. I've been at this a while. It's cool because we've grown together, I guess, really, but in different avenues, right? And I've had so many of those pinch me moments in here too. But it's really cool to see what you're doing, man. And just like with it being based around combat sports and how awesome Denver is as a city for that, and how many high level people we have that train here, and the amount of gyms, and it's incredible, man.
Yeah, and that fight that we're going to have in that main event, Justin Gonzalez and Darian Robinson, man, that's going to be a banger fight too. Darian Robinson is a kid who he's fought some high-level guys out there in the process. He fought Yusuf actually in the King of Sparta tournament in the kickboxing round. He's fought some other really good competition on the local and the regional scene. Those guys are going to be another just kick-ass fight in the process. So yeah, this other fight,
so that'll be Super Bowl Sunday then.
That'll be on Super Bowl Sunday, yeah.
Fuck
This fight, Joe Leal and Quadratola Husseini. This kid, Quadratola Husseini, he didn't get the win in his last fight, but this kid brings it every single time too. He's young. He's only like 19, 20 years old, but he's a scrapper through and through. That's a kid who he trains at a high altitude, but he's fought for us in both 5280 and Colorado Combat Club. Another one of those kids who he is win or loss, he comes to bring it every single time. And then he's got an opponent that has some experience out there in Liao, but both of these guys are going to go out there and try to put on an entertaining show for the fans. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, that fight, there might be, if you scroll down a little while, you'll see the Combat Club 26 highlights from Connor Leonard and Brandon Waters. And again, man, that is... To me, that is one of the greatest fights that we've had ever in Colorado. I called that an instant classic. I think that, if there is such a thing to have a true Hall of Fame induction of a fight here for us, that's absolutely on the list.
That's
to be able
going
to go
in there.
Oh, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, it would still be below this. This is all promo stuff for 2027. But yeah, that fight, I mean, we've been blessed to have a lot of guys who, even if they don't go on to bigger stages, just because largely, at the local level, it's a lot of amateur fights with some of the earlier, like freshman, sophomore level pros. There's been tremendous fights, tremendous fighters that we've had out there. And sometimes it just becomes a thing because, let's be real, fighting doesn't pay a whole lot in the process. So guys end up moving on. It's a dangerous game. Sometimes injuries happen and careers get cut short in that process. But to be blessed with the scene, yeah, it's one of those ones where you see the red. It might be that one right there, right up top. That one right there, the one on the right.
Nice.
Yes.
Give us some volume, too.
Yeah, these guys just left a piece of themselves in there.
If you're not checking out the Mountainside Podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell.
I've got long sleeves on, but I got goosebumps already thinking back to this fight. I mean, I've watched this fight probably like 20, 25 times. I'll just be on the treadmill sometimes watching it just for a little bit of extra pep in the step.
I thought we were going to be able to hear some of your commentary in this.
Oh, yeah, no, this was just the highlight from it that we threw the music on, but...
Nice.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, if you could see it right there, these guys are just going at it, throwing bombs at each other, no stepping back, standing in the pocket, just swinging and banging.
Man, what a fight. The cool thing about going to the Stampede or something like that, where you have a lot of these, is it's so close and intimate, man.
Yep.
Like everybody's pretty much got a ringside seat almost, right?
Definitely.
And then you have the balcony, so you have that whole aspect of it too. It's really intimate spot to go.
Certainly. And I mean, bro, we're blessed, like I say, to have a venue like the Stampede where there's really not a bad seat in the entire house, especially with the way that they used to do the fights at the Stampede back in the day. The layout, it was a little bit different and it wasn't necessarily as great by the way that they would have the cage over by the stage. But now that it's right there in the center of where the dance floor is, just like you said, there's really not a bad seat in the entire venue. We've had some I don't know if you would maybe call all of them A-listers, but we've definitely had some really notable names that have came to our cards. We've had some nuggets that have been there in the past. We've had guys like coming to some of the different shows. One time Birdman was there, Chris Anderson. Like, dude, you want to talk about a guy who stands head and shoulders above the entire crowd. Just a crazy, giant human. One of Jokic's brothers was actually supposed to fight on one of our cards. It was the card that got canceled for COVID.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that would have been crazy.
Yeah, he trains MMA, doesn't he? Like, pretty heavily.
That dude is massive.
What does he weigh?
Oh, now he's much heavier now than he was in 2020. Mm-hmm. He's got to be 350, somewhere around.
Shit.
Maybe
crazy.
Not that, but at the same time, though, he's what, like 6'10"? Because his brother's a footer. Nikola's a 7-footer, and both brothers are right in that same ballpark of size. And he is just diesel. He is huge.
Really?
Yeah, he's a massive, and even, I mean, his head's as big as that fucking buffalo skull. But guys like him, Theo Vaughn was at one of our shows one time.
Okay.
Like, it was just like, I look right up, because I went and saw him live the night before at the Paramount. And then I look up the next day, and it's like, holy shit, the Rat King is here at our show. Like, Theo's just sitting up there with his black snapback hat, just sitting up in the balcony. He was there with Corey Sandhagen, had a few guys on the card, and he's friends with Corey. So he was there watching our show.
Yeah.
Like, just one of those.
I love Theo Vaughn, man.
Awesome sort of scenarios to look up there and see, man, like, that's pretty damn cool. And he shared us on his story. It's like little amateur show in Colorado. Like, dude, this is so dope.
Just the local legends that are there. Like the one that I went to this last year. You got you and Cody up there. I mean, I had trouble watching the fights because I knew so many people, and I felt like I was stonewalling somebody. If there's so many people in town that
Oh,
that
yeah.
show up to these things. It's rad.
In whichever Colorado show that you go to, just because, you know, I mean, there's a lot of fighters that will fight across each of the different shows. So, you know, I never like to throw complete shade at some of the other ones or say like, oh, you know, the way that some people will. And I mean, some of the guys that are associated with they kind of fall in the same boat too. But I don't like to throw shade or take shots at the other ones because we have a lot of the same people that are competing across multiple shows. So if I were to go in and say, you know, guys, like, man. Oh, it's, you know, like their show is shit or whatever, like I don't do that because those guys that fight for them are also fighting for us at times. And, you know, do I think qualitatively, collectively, like, you know, on a fight-by-fight basis for the entire card, do I think that we have an overall higher consistency of quality? Sure, but that doesn't mean that there's not great fighters on some of those other shows or that there's not going to be some of those fights that, man, like that fight alone right there is worth the price of admission sort of bouts, you know? Some of my good friends, like, you know, when Yusuf had his tour outside of the UFC, well, he went and fought for another show that was here in town. I'm not going to go and bash them because, like I say, I have some of my best friends who are on some of those other shows in the process. But like I said,
you're a good human.
Yeah, and
I mean, that's what you should do in anything. Like that's what we do in the podcast game is we do nothing but elevate each other, man, or that.
I try to at least.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, you never know. Yeah, and Dustin always has told this to me. Dustin Jacoby has always said, like, hey, man, you got to be nice to the people on the way up because you never know who you're going to have to run back into on the way down. You never know what this life brings. You know, you never know what is going to change as far as what the landscape of shows, promotions, all that is. And I don't think that, you know, there's ever going to be something that changes as far as status quo with us. But again, I just don't want to make unnecessary enemies in that sense either. Like, you know, I want to support the scene as a whole. Like, yeah, I want us to grow and us to be the premier, undisputed best show out there. But I also want the community to collectively be able to grow. You know, it's more important to me that our Colorado
You're
MMA
only creating more
amplified.
sports fans or MMA sports fans or combat sports fans by having all these different organizations.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like I say, like I think that we are blessed with one of the richest scenes for MMA talent, for combat sports talent as a whole across the country. I mean, there's not a lot of places where you get to see high-level pro grappling, high-level MMA. You get to see an exclusive Muay Thai promotion. There's a lot of places that don't have that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're
try to not take that for granted.
All these guys are training in gyms that are forging UFC fighters and the pros at the highest level, whether it's bare knuckle boxing or whatever, man.
Right.
So it's like, I think that's why I've had so many of them on the podcast is it's just there's so many fighters here in Colorado. I mean, look at UFC 324. There's like probably 6 or 8 fighters on that reside in Colorado. Then 325, you got Cody and Dustin going down there.
Yep.
Some Colorado fighters, man. It's
definitely
the altitude is for real, man.
Yeah, no, like, and being blessed to, you know, I've seen guys like Justin Gaethje in the gym before. Like, hey, you know, it's going to be an exciting day watching sparring when that red Lambo's in the parking lot.
Right.
Man, like, you know, it's about to be some fun stuff out there.
Some highlight reels in sparring.
Yeah, just fun all the way around. And because a guy like that, he puts in the absolute work. Like, he spars the way that he fights. You know, some of the stuff that he does in the training room, like, you could understand why he is just such a high-level fighter, because he's crafty. He's unique in some of the things that he does. The way that he can bend his hips and have leg kicks from such a tight distance, there's not too many people ever in the history of MMA who can basically almost within short range be able to still land crazy effective leg kicks.
It's insane, man.
His takedown defense is second to none. I mean, he was an All-American in college up at UNC, and it was in large part, you know, he doesn't show off his wrestling, and not to say that he doesn't have it. He doesn't show off his wrestling ability in his UFC fights. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's never shot for a takedown in his entire UFC career.
Really?
But at the same time, though, when you have a guy who has more bonuses than he has actual fights in the UFC, that is why he is the human highlight reel. That is why he is a guy who, when people were bitching about this title fight being the one that was made up when Ilya stepped away, well, no, it makes absolute sense why he is the guy in the process.
100%, man.
Paramount, with this new deal, they've all but said, I mean, you could read between the lines that they want entertaining fights. They want entertaining matchups. They are riding off of storylines. That first promo that they put out, You know that they wanted it to be Paddy against Ilya. Those two guys have history with each other. They had the scuffle at the hotel a couple years ago. They even threw a couple, like at the Qatar card, they were like 30 feet away from each other, and all the media outlets were posting, security keeping them separated, even though they were completely civil. But you could tell that they were building the arc for that storyline for those two to cross paths. Ilya has to step away for his personal issues that are going on, which people were trying to blast him for, strip him, blah, blah, blah. No, man, like he just won the belt last year at International Fight Week. There's been other champions out there who, they've had maybe an injury or something like that that's kept him out for close to a year, somewhere in that sense. Fighters are humans too. Like I know that everybody wants to just think of them as some robot, some machine that goes in there and just plugs and plays as soon as that call comes with the bout agreement. To be able to operate on that level as a champion and to be your highest self, Coach Mark says it all the time. You've got to be a champion in life before you can be able to be that champion in the cage. He's got a lot of turmoil that's going on right now with his personal life, with the divorce, with the custody situation with his ex-wife, all of those things that are happening right now. He's going through court proceedings right during all this time as we speak. I can understand him saying, I'm not mentally fit to fight right now at this moment. And especially when you have a guy who's an undefeated champion who has done nothing but put on top-tier performances essentially for his entire UFC run. No, whether you like him or not, I think he's earned the respect to be able to say, like, hey, man, I need a little bit of time right now to sort these things out in my personal life.
Incredible amount of talent. Look, incredible fighter.
And I may be the unpopular opinion, but I respect him more for being able to say, hey, guys, like, I'm not in a good place mentally.
There's so many yes men in this business, right? That will take fights on short notice or put themselves in a vulnerable situation. It's kind of the game because you might not get a call back, right?
You kind of have to. You know, in some ways, like that could be your make or break opportunity. But he's built himself up to the position where he's one of only a dozen 2-division champions in the history of the sport. He's one of only a dozen. Again, so that's history within itself. He just won the belt a few months ago, and he's had this crazy sort of life turmoil situation that's happening. I respect the hell out of him for being able to say, no, like my mental health needs a little bit of a break right now before I can go in for another high-stakes, high-level fight. Because when you're the champion, well, no, then you have to do a lot more work besides just what's going on in your training camp. You've got to be a part of these media tours. You've got to be a part of all these press opportunities. You've got to be a part of all the business end of the promotion, especially with what was going to be the first card of this Paramount deal.
Yeah.
They were going to have to push him through so many different things, especially with him being a multilingual guy who popularizes within multiple different markets and demographics across the world. You don't think that they were going to go push him through the Georgian market, through the Spanish market, through the English-speaking circuit. You don't think that he was going to have to go through the ringer of promotion?
100%.
No. Yeah. So I totally agree, and I support that he was able to have enough wherewithal mentally to say, no, I need to take a step back for a moment. And then that opens up the door for, obviously,
look at what we got, though.
One guy.
This is amazing.
That circles all back to my original point that you are never wrong for inserting the human highlight reel Justin Gaethje into one of those marquee type of fights. This is a guy, again, who has more bonuses than he has fights. A dude who is a former interim champion, who is a former BMF champion. And yeah, did he lose that fight to Max Holloway? Sure. But you mean
arguably
to tell me
one of the best fights of all time.
That 25 minutes worth of war at UFC 300, which blessed that I was in the building for that one to see that shit happen live.
You were there for it?
Oh yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was a crazy fight to be there. Like I was right there with David Onama. We were watching when they were going through the walkouts, and it was actually when Max Holloway's walkout was going on, and like I was just sitting there like I couldn't control it. I was like shedding happy tears. Like it was just crazy emotional. Like holy shit, dude, we are here, because they gave out these little wristbands, kind of like they do at some concerts, to where it syncs with the lights, or syncs with the lights sync with the music and everything.
Right.
And it was red and blue, like Justin kind of being the fire guy. Obviously, like red and blue as far as the corners too, but Max started out with coming out to this real like ocean reggae sort of style sound before it went into his Hawaiian Super Kickboxer song. And just the vibe and the ambiance of the crowd, and it was just one of the most magical things
There's
possible.
nothing like the walkouts, man. Yeah.
You almost had to, the next fight after that was the Wei Li and the Yan Xiaonan fight, and you almost like, man, like I got to get myself back in. Like I just had such a crazy like adrenaline and emotional release from this feature fight in the BMF bout to then, okay, well, you got through the Wei Li and the Yan Xiaonan fight, and then it gets to the main event, which was Alex Poatan Pereira taking on Jamal Hill. And
which was another, man, what a card.
Oh, just absolutely incredible. You know, to see that walkout from Pereira in person, like him just the, oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. And the UFC production, I mean, they're top notch, man, when it comes to the lighting designers, everything, right? Like the audio, the music that they pick, the camera angles, the commentators, like
Definitely.
It is.
And I'd love to see them open up the walkouts a little bit more. Just, I mean, a lot of the newer age fans, they don't remember what some of the old school Pride walkouts or what some of those were like. You know, I'm dating myself a little bit in that sense, almost damn near 40 at this point. But just being a longtime MMA fan all the way back in the day of watching those old Pride shows where you're at Super Saitama Arena where there's immensely more people. There's exponentially more people at those shows because they were in a giant stadium versus just being arena shows, which I kind of like that the UFC keeps it to arenas just because they go for the angle of viewing experience because, you know, if we're being honest, if you were up in the 500 section at the Broncos Stadium, how much of a, you know, outside of now that they have those giant screens, how much of a viewing experience are you really having?
That's my argument. Even in the arena, I end up watching the screen because, you know, it's like
it just kind of depends on where your placement
where
is.
you're at. Yeah, for sure.
But the way that Pride used to have it with guys like with Jason Mayhem Miller, like I think he was one of the dudes who way back when had some of the dopest walkouts out there that you could imagine. Just the dancing, the people that he would bring out in the process, the crazy funky outfits, and he was kind of the against the grain guy his entire career, but especially being a Westerner, going out to Japan and doing all these crazy things, having the antics that he did.
Crazy, man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then even, you know, you had some of the earlier UFC walkouts were a little bit more cavalier, if you will, or different guys who fought in different shows, like Lee Murray. When Lee Murray came out, basically like Hannibal Lecter in the prison suit and the mask, kind of foreshadowing where Lee Murray, you know, he's still locked up right now to this day.
Wild.
Oh, bro. Well, you know who Lee Murray is, right? You know the story of Lee Murray? That's the real deal OG BMF. Like a guy who went and pulled off the biggest cash heist in history. That happened, I believe it was, they call it like the Navitas heist or something along those lines. But yeah, the biggest cash heist in history. And he's locked up. He fled the country. He was able to get down to Morocco, and then he got caught down there a few months later. But he was also kind of the uncrowned UFC light heavyweight champion in a way because it's still all folklore. Tito denies it, but I know other people who were actually there, guys like Pat Miletich, who have told me the story, all that yes, it is true that they got into a street fight over a game of pool, and he left Tito snoring out in the alley.
Really?
Yes. So it's just one of those crazy things. He also fought Anderson Silva outside of the UFC. I think that was in King of the Cage or Cage Rage, one of those shows way back when. But yeah, one of the real deal badasses that ever existed. And Dana himself even said, like, no, like that guy's a scary human. And I'm not just talking in the sense of being a MMA or a cage fighter. He is a scary dude all the way around. Like, you want to talk about real knockaround guys? He was one of those dudes.
Yeah, it's crazy to see it is elevated into so much more of a sport now, you know, and to see it. What do you think about it going to Paramount? Like, I was apprehensive to see the pay-per-views go away because I'm like, where's the model where you're still able to build superstars?
I think it's a pro and a con because pay-per-view is a dying model as it is. You know, the amount of streams that were out there and available. The numbers, there's a reason why they stopped, or in my opinion, there's a reason why they stopped publicly announcing what pay-per-view
There's so much
were.
pirating is what you're getting at, right?
Exactly. There's so much pirating, so they had to shift their model because of what the market was doing, in my opinion. I think that there was no longer really the large amount of buys that you were seeing on a pay-per-view level. You weren't seeing any more of those, those million-plus pay-per-view cards and granted, you could say that they haven't built as many stars, whatever, that there's an argument to be made there, that they've kind of gone the NFL route of building the shield versus building individual stars. There's absolutely an argument to be had there. But I also just think that when we're talking, you're charging, basically $75 per card in the process. There's a lot of your demographic who are, they're younger. You have a significant amount of 35 and under fans who that may not always, especially depending on the market. Hey, man, Denver in general, that's a pretty expensive place to live. And you're talking other big markets out there, whether you're South Florida to some of the California seaboard out there. It's not cheap places to live. So then just to go say, well, let me go fork out this, $75 for a card. And you could always say, well, yeah, let's get together some. Yeah, there's all the arguments to be made for buying the pay-per-view, but it's also not the easiest thing to do in that process.
My take on it was kind of like, just make it $19.99. Everybody's got $20, especially on a Saturday night, right? You're going to go spend that somewhere, probably, more than likely. Make it $20, and then we still have that model.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree. Like, I think if you had it a little bit more affordable, if it was a little bit more feasible for the common person, and also the other big portion of your demographic that you have with fighting, it's a lot of blue-collar folks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of blue-collar, and it's a lot of people that are, for, I guess, lack of a better reference, they're a little bit lower on the socioeconomic scale. You're not your people who are tuning in for golf and tennis, and there's a reason why there's not. Well, why do you see Rolex ads and high-end luxury car ads and all that sort of thing for golf and for tennis and some of these, and then for the UFC we're getting cell phone and Burger King and betting
Harley Davidson
and all this
Monster,
sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a difference of who your demographic is. And I think that in some ways, they kind of price themselves out. I think that that's where it had kind of ended up.
I agree with that because me personally, on some of them, I was like, I'm not paying for this card.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it were a little bit, you cut that in half.
$20, yeah.
Yeah, or even all the way down to 20, then definitely it's a lot more easy for somebody to say, oh yeah, let me press that button and buy this stream. I do also think that there were some issues at times with the pay-per-view. I never personally had an issue with ESPN Plus, but there were a lot of people out there who would always be online blasting they were having issues with it. I think for any of the ones that I
never had any trouble. I bought a shit ton. I probably spent, I don't know, at least $2,000 with ESPN.
I mean, I think that sometimes it also had
because
to deal
of the
with,
UFC.
When were you trying to buy it? Because whenever the ones that I did, I just would make sure that, okay, well, as soon as I started with the prelims, I would hit the buy so that it would just easily transition right over into the pay-per-view broadcast.
Yeah, if you're doing it last minute.
Because I think that it's kind of almost like the way that the Stranger Things shit happened last week, where there were so many people that thought that there was going to be a Conformity Gate episode, like an unannounced finale, that they crashed the whole platform. Well, I think that there could be a certain thing that happens with the actual point of sale system where there's too many people flooding it at one point to where there could be some crashes. Again, I never had the issue with it, but I do understand technology that sometimes systems and the bandwidth gets overflooded.
Yeah. I'm excited for it to be at Paramount, though.
Oh,
I just hope with the longevity of it. Look at this card that we're getting, dude. And then 325 right behind it, you basically have back-to-back pay-per-view cards.
Well, and I mean, with the backing that you have with Paramount, it's not the worldwide leader in sports the way that ESPN is, obviously, but you also have, how long has CBS been around? CBS Sports, that's been around for forever in the process. Paramount is obviously a very large scale studio and production platform that has been around for, decades upon decades in the process. They've sunk a shitload of money, $7.7 billion in over the 7-year tenure of the contract. So they want to be able to make return on their investment. So they're going to put in those sort of resources for promotion and whatnot. I think that overall it leads itself to a good place. I think that it's fan-friendly because now you can just pay an annual price for Paramount Plus and you're going to get all the cards. If you're here in the States, there was the big article that came out of people in Canada bitching about having to still pay for pay-per-view. Well, become the 51st state and, maybe we'll talk. But let's go. But yeah, there's just here in the States, though, I think it's very fan-friendly as far as the deal going to Paramount Plus. And you, from a fan perspective...
So is it U.S. only that gets...
I don't know all of the markets that get them all, but I know that there's certain countries where it's a little bit different. I don't know what all the different restrictions are as far as that goes, but for sure in the U.S., where the large majority of where a lot of the audience is. But then also, there's a lot of people who already had Paramount, so that's something that might just be already in the mix, or you get a much cheaper annual bottom line that you're paying for that show, as opposed to having to go the full paying ESPN Plus and then paying for the pay-per-views and all of that on top of it. And I know there's a lot of people as a whole that are unhappy with ESPN and their streaming situation right now with some of the different live events. They're like, I'm already paying for ESPN Plus. Why do I have to pay for this extra? I can't remember exactly what it's called with ESPN, but their new streaming service.
Their model is, I hate to say it, it's kind of shit. Like, we had some issues watching Monday Night Football because we didn't subscribe to cable through ESPN, but I have ESPN Plus, and was like, what is going on, man?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to pay an extra $200 for my TV provider and all these streaming platforms.
Exactly.
So we just didn't watch Monday Night Football.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that they are. And with WWE has gone to them now as far as their premium live event streaming, and it's the same sort of thing. They went there for a lot of their shows.
Paramount or WWE's at Paramount, or
they're
ESPN?
with ESPN now.
Okay.
So whatever that new, I think it's like $30 a month or whatever thing, but if you have just regular ESPN Plus, you don't get all of those live streamed events. Like same thing with some of the games and the restrictions.
If it's prime time or on the channel,
right? You don't get all of those things. Whereas opposed to they were with Peacock before, and you got pretty much just everything right there on Peacock, or whatever your subscription price was.
The streaming thing drives me nuts, man. Like, because you need a subscription for this and that, and it's just like.
Well, we're back to basically like paying what you're, we all talked about this back in the day of like, it would be nice to just have like an a la carte sort of situation with streaming to where, you only pick and chose what you really wanted. But now with the way that things have sort of sectioned off with the individual streaming platforms, you're back to paying what you were paying for a fucking cable bill.
Oh, yeah. By the time you add them up, you got Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all these freaking platforms, ESPN, and then they have the bundle packages, and it's like, what are we doing?
Oh, I totally agree. It's out of hand in some senses, but I think that through time, it's all going to kind of merge back to each other because the market is going to dictate where things are at. Yeah. And as it's been reported, I don't know if it's completely factual, but it's been what's been shown in some of these like business publications or some of the sports outlets. ESPN Plus, since the UFC deal ended, have been hemorrhaging customers.
Really?
From one of the reports that I saw, it was upwards of 150,000+ subscribers that had left from the ESPN Plus platform after that last ESPN card.
I don't doubt it, man. I mean, it's really the only reason that I had ESPN Plus. I just canceled the whole Disney and everything. It's like, sorry, kids, no more Disney, because I haven't been a fan of them for a while, and some of the agendas that they're pushing, and all that bullshit. But I left it. Like, I have no use for ESPN now other than,
I get it.
What I get for free.
Yeah, I totally understand. And, with some of the other stuff, like, I'll admit there was, like, when the Broncos were on Monday night, well, I don't have cable, but, you can find that stream out there somewhere. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's those options that are out there, and with them pricing 100%. Themselves out with, like, no, I'm not going to go pay for an entire subscriber situation in addition to what I was already paying for ESPN Plus. Like, not going to do it. Yeah. For maybe if it was a little bit more inclusive with more stuff, sure. But that's why, with the Paramount, I'm a Paramount customer now, and I'm cool with it.
It's the only reason I'm a Paramount customer, honestly. I'm excited for it, man. Like,
I got on with the Paramount, though, because through the Paramount streaming app, through Prime, that's where most of the Broncos games played through this year. Yeah. Because of their CBS affiliation. So any of the games that were broadcast on CBS for the Broncos, they played through on the app. So
let's go Broncos.
That's where I had already had it in the process, and I was like, oh, well, they're going to Paramount? Let's roll, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, what a season they're having, man. So hopefully it keeps going.
There's also some interesting things, though, that are going on with that deal with the whole UFC transitioning away from ESPN. Fight Pass may potentially go away. There's a big shift in some of the regional shows that are no longer a part of Fight Pass. One of the biggest ones out there, and which I think is The biggest feeder promotion is the LFA.
Yeah.
LFA just landed a new home with Vice TV.
Really? I didn't know any of this was going on.
So it was a 5-year deal, and that expired at the end of 2025. LFA used to be on Access TV, which was owned by Mark Cuban back in the day. And when he sold and when there were some different changes in the higher ups, that's when LFA was then no longer a part of Access TV. They had one dark show that happened in Mystic Lake in Minneapolis, and then right after that, the next show which was the one that was out here, which was at the First Bank Center, which no longer exists anymore. But that was the card that Brandon Royval won.
I know, that kind of sucks that venue's gone. That was a good spot.
Dude, that was, I think, one of the best fight venues that we had in Colorado.
Absolutely.
Because it was formatted like a hockey venue. And with them having, you had floor seats, obviously, but then having the tiered seating or like the bowl going up, it was only one level, really, in that sense. It was perfect to go and watch fights. Whether it was LFA that was there a couple of times, to Bare Knuckle or some of the other shows that were there in the process. The UFC was back there way back in the day. The infamous fight from Nate Diaz where he triangles Kurt Pellegrino when he throws up the double birds when he's triangling him. That was here in Colorado. So we've had some historic fights that have happened at the First Bank Center.
Now it's like apartment complexes or some shit.
Yeah, they said that it wasn't drawing any sort of revenue. There wasn't really a whole lot of money that was being made from it. So they knocked it down, and it's now like housing and all of that, But yeah, we've had some real crazy fights, though, period, that have gone on in Colorado. But those are just some of the great ones that happened at that venue. That was the first show that they were on Fight Pass. I believe that was the very first one that was on Fight Pass. It was either the first one or two that was on it, and then they were on Fight Pass through the end of last year.
Yeah.
And then now it was kind of a thing of, okay, well, where are they going to land? Where's going to be home? Are they going to have to do a little bit just on the digital scene through their YouTube or through their socials? Well, they just made the announcement this last week that they are now with Vice TV for this year. So
Crazy world, man. It's all business that I don't want to deal with, but we have to.
A lot of macro level stuff out there, I mean,
God. Being at all these organizations and seeing all this, commentating, what's your like highlight moments and some of the wildest things that you've seen? Because you're immersed in this like pretty much every week.
Oh yeah, this was actually probably one of the this was the first week or a couple of weeks span where I didn't have an actual show. I threw from the beginning of the beginning of December through the first weekend of January. We had 4 shows in 5 weeks that I did. So a lot of live events, a lot of stuff that was going on in the process as far as actual combat sports events. I think probably my highlight, if I were to just say from last year, was getting to go out to Vegas and do the Baroka XFC show. That was the last show before they had their merger and a major acquisition that's now going to slingshot them big time going forward under the XFC banner. That was tremendous to be a part of. The work that Chris Defendis and Randall Ellman did to be able to put on that show out in the fight capital of the world, to be able to go out in Vegas and to actually like be a big part of the proceedings and everything that happened for that show, shooting media all throughout that week, was awesome. I got to meet one of my idols in Robbie Lawler in the process. I have a 1-of-1 Robbie Lawler action figure that was designed off of Robbie Lawler at UFC 189, the fight that we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
So 1-of-1. There's only one of these that exists in the world, and I have it. And I got to get Robbie to sign it that week. So that was pretty cool. Baisinger Susarkayev was also there doing a meet and greet with him, who I think he's going to be one of the next big things in the UFC middleweight division. That's kind of Hamzat's understudy, the kid who fought on Contender Series on a Tuesday, then 4 days later turned around at that UFC show and had 2 finishes within 7 days. Tremendous.
Crazy.
So I think that was probably one of the big highlights of the year. But then, a couple of weeks after that was our Combat Club 26 card with that fight with Conor Leonard and Brandon Waters, which that to me, again, that's throughout the entirety of my commentary run and career for almost going on, 8+ years now. That was the best fight that I've gotten to call live. Hands down, not even close. So those were a couple of big things. Shooting for the LFA back in the day. I've shot a lot of photography for LFA throughout the years, all across the country, but won LFA Photo of the Year a couple of years back at their Vail show. That was one that Josh Fremd, another guy who you've had on the program.
How's Josh doing? I need to catch up with him. So
Oh, the big yins is the big
Yeah.
yins. You gotta love that big ogre. Yeah, I love Josh. He's gone on a couple of our CJJC cards. Also, he's I don't know if he's made a public announcement of it yet, so I won't let the cat out of the bag. But he does have a fight that he's training for right now. It is back in MMA, so I guess I'll let him go on and make that announcement. But he's got something big that's in the works right now. Yeah,
Shout out, Josh.
I love
you,
Josh.
buddy.
Yeah, the big yins. I love you, you big ogre. Yeah, so it's great, being able to be down when a kid who just means the world to me, when Jacoby Jones won his LFA world title, being able to be there in person in Phoenix, shooting basically content for his entire camp leading up to the process. We were roommates for a while. That kid means so much to me. There's so many little parts of the game that I just, being attached to those things throughout the years, like you could strip away all of the business, you could strip away any of the merits, the accolades, all of that. I've got some dope ass friends who have done some crazy things, and we've shared some amazing moments together in the process. Brandon Royval being there for when he fought for a world title in the UFC. I was there when he won the LFA world title. Yusuf Zalal, I was there for Yusuf's UFC debut. So, again, another guy who, we did a podcast here with you together, me and
I
Yusuf.
love Yusuf too. Man.
That's one of my best friends in the world, man.
Yeah.
Just being to be with some of those guys and share some of those crazy experiences and moments together. That's not an easy or a direct answer, but the moments. At the end of the day, all we have in this business are the miles and the memories. And when it's all said and done, we've got some pretty amazing memories.
That's rad. When it comes to your job and your gig, I know that I would have a hard time being biased when I'm calling a fight or something like that. How do you control that or contain that? Is it?
Sometimes it's tough. It is. And it's tough when you have an extra special connection to somebody, but it's also part of being a pro. Mm-hmm. I've got a good head, at least in the sense of being able to compartmentalize and separate myself from the actual what is going on, and I just got to treat it like, hey, these are two individual entities. These are two, bodies that are out there, and I have to do my best to commentate on the action. And because, the thing that you see in a lot of other local and regional shows out there, and I'll be the first one to admit that there's sometimes where I probably had a little bit more of a slant toward one particular person, but there's also sometimes where you might just be talking about that person a little bit more or shedding a little bit more backstory on him just because you know more about him or you have more to talk about. I try to always do a pre-fight questionnaire and a little interview with guys before our MMA cards, but I'm only able to go off of what you give me. So there's some guys that they don't give a whole lot of themselves in these pre-fight interviews, or they don't really open up a whole ton. So I can only go off of so much of what you've given me, especially if we don't have any sort of prior relationship or background.
Right.
And then at times, there are some people who get a little bit razzed about it, but I try to treat every opportunity with the highest level of reverence. I try to think of it as like, if this was somebody's first time watching an MMA show, if this was somebody's last time ever watching a show, I want this to be the best viewing experience that they could possibly have. You get it from a lot of these other regional shows or some of the local shows out there where it's a very skewed and slanted broadcast and a bias that you could see. It's almost like, if you were to turn on, what's the Nuggets out? It's Altitude.
Right.
Yeah. Or like the Rockies on whatever when you have like those home broadcasts in a sense, if you will, or if you were to tune into like to Dave Logan calling a Broncos game where it's kind of like that home network.
You know where his loyalty lies.
Exactly. Where you know where some of those guys' loyalty lies. Well, we don't have the blessing in MMA to have multiple different broadcasts that you're tuning into and listening to. So sometimes, and I get pissed off when we have some of our guys go fight for like Fury or some of those where those Texas commentators shit all over our guys all the time. Mm-hmm. And you could tell that, oh no, we are the foreigner. We are the person who is in somebody else's backyard. It drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely insane. So I try to bring as much balance as I can. Again, I'm not perfect by any means.
You do a great job at it.
I try my best, and I've removed myself from a lot of the fear of making mistakes though too, Bobby. I've been doing it for so long, whether it's on the radio side with Mile High Sports, which we've had 230 plus episodes, somewhere around in that range now on the Mile High Sports Network alone.
Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate that. to I've called thousands of fights, cage side, ring side, stage side, whatever the different discipline is. I know that I'm going to make mistakes. I know that I'm going to fuck up at some point. I know that those things are going to happen. I'm going to say something that probably wasn't right or doesn't make sense, but I've lost the fear of making mistakes in the process. I know that it's going to happen, but my job or my goal is just to reduce the amount of times that it does. And I'm also at the same time, I'm not too big to admit that A, these mistakes are going to happen, but B, also if I really do mess up and got to retract something, I'm not afraid to do that in the process. I'm not afraid to fail. I think that there's no way that you can have any sort of measured success in anything that you do without having some failures in the process.
100%.
You're going to fail. You're going to look stupid. You're going to fall flat on your face. And in what I do, it's a very public failure. It's a very public falling on your face in front of people, to where I'm on, I have thousands of hours of me publicly on camera or in a microphone, to where there's been dumb stuff that I've said, or sometimes on the weekly show, in lieu of trying to make something a little bit more entertaining, sometimes you maybe take a little bit more charged up stance, or it might not always be the most logical prediction or analysis for a fight. But if you're always just saying kind of what the general consensus is, then you don't always necessarily get the response or the engagement. So that's part of the broadcasting world, is at times, especially when you have a partner, like when me and Josh had a good dynamic back and forth, Josh always played real Switzerland or real neutral, because, he is a fighter, he is a peer in that mix. So like, okay, well, what can I say that goes maybe a little bit against the grain? Not going full Skip Bayless, but, what is maybe something that is a little bit opposite of what most people are thinking, or what is the conventional wisdom for here, just for the entertainment sake of it. And not all the time is it an absolute of what I believe, but I'm also not afraid to take the chance, because there's going to be every now and then where you say the crazy thing and someone gets it right.
Yeah.
Like one of the dumbest predictions that I probably ever had was, I thought that there was a fighting chance that Megan Anderson was going to be able to put up a fight against Amanda Nunes. That blew up in my face.
Right.
That was a terrible prediction, but it was also somewhat on, I don't want to necessarily say a homer base, but I had a tight connection with James Krause.
Yeah.
Megan had trained out here in Colorado for a little while at one point, and I thought that, hey, like, if she's actually on, she's a problem. She's a legitimate 6-foot-tall chick.
I loved her as a fighter.
Throws hard.
I'm a fan.
But then as it turned out, and as it was revealed through time, that she was such a head case, that she had some different issues away from the cage, and as soon as she made the walk, like, I knew that everything that I said on the show that week was absolutely not going to come true. The way that she looked just so completely like starstruck, or just deer in the headlights when she was making the walk for that fight with Amanda, I was like, oh, this is going to go horribly, and I'm going to hear the backlash coming from my prediction tenfold. But I wasn't afraid to go out there and to take a stance.
How do you address it the next week or the following Monday or whatever the schedule is?
Well, I royally fucked that one up.
Yeah.
I used to also do a segment that was called What I Got Right and What I Got Wrong, where I would just go back and recap.
I remember you doing those.
And it was just more or less like, hey, like, I'm not afraid to hold myself publicly accountable for the things that I say. I'm not afraid to have to go through those sorts of trials in the process. But at the same time, I get more right than I get wrong. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more things that are on the green side of the column versus the red. But, it's just, that's just experience. That's time in the saddle. You're going to get stuff wrong. Nobody is going to be completely perfect in their analysis or in their predictions. I'm not a big gambling guy. I've completely removed myself from that scene over the last few years, especially after Hunter Campbell gave us a notice at one point to stop. This was before the initial gambling thing happened. A couple of years back. And then especially just because of some of the connections, as mentioned with guys like James or whatever, like, I want absolutely no reason for anybody to think that I have any sort of, tomfoolery that's going on.
Absolutely.
Basically what Hunter said was that I'm considered insider information. Well, hey, cool. I don't want to be somebody who is then attributed to any wrongdoings or whatever. And I don't know. I believe that the sports.
So how do you not cross? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but how do you not cross those lines in your podcast and other spaces like that?
I'll give analysis versus trying to give you something based off of, oh, these are what the lines are. So like, hey, like if you want to
Right.
go, maybe, do your due diligence and shop your best lines for, what may be a particular finish that's highly likely based off of what the styles of this matchup produces. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to go and say, oh, like the way that we used to have a sponsored gambling segment to where we would say like, oh, like, yeah, this is the pick of the week, like hammer down, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Haven't done anything like that since like, mid 2023.
A lot of fighters are doing or were doing that real recently within the last year, right? Because they're paid by some sort of sponsorship, whether it's some sort of online betting thing, and then they're giving their picks. What have they put a stop to that? Do you know, or what's
officially? I don't know. I know that it was highly frowned upon even while they were doing those things. But at the same time, the elephant in the room is that fighters don't get paid much.
Right.
So when you have one of these handicappers or whatever they call themselves out there, like I can't even remember the guy's name that was one of like the popular ones that would have people shout him out post fight. But when they're saying like, hey, I'm gonna throw you this bag, go promote me or go promote my page. Well, it's kind of hard to say when they're getting almost what half their purse was going to be from this guy just for shouting him out sort of situation.
Well, I mean, they were even doing that on like the NFTs and the Bitcoin thing and like,
I don't understand
Bitcoin,
half of
but
all
like,
that stuff.
yeah,
like,
I don't either. We got approached by
I'm a
so
wise
many.
and intelligent guy in a lot of ways, and there's some stuff where I'm absolutely a knuckle dragging Neanderthal, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with not being in the crypto world with all the crazy scams and things like that have happened, or the people who have promoted like the different pump and dumps or some of that. Like, I want no part of that because I don't understand it. I don't understand it outside of basic level things like what Bitcoin or what the blockchain like, but all these other little like alternate coins or those stuff that's out there, I don't understand any
We've been
of that,
approached by so many here.
No
It's
desire.
Like, do you not understand our demographic? These are like bow hunters and like outdoors people and like I don't know. It's just crazy that
it's just not my cup of tea, and I choose to not really align with it in that process. And especially I'm in a unique position of I'm still kind of that regular guy that's, just living life and gets to be a part of such amazing, crazy things. But I also, when I take a step back from it, like, I don't remember what it's like to be truly an outsider or someone who doesn't have skin in the game and something so close. And to say that, oh, well, I mean, just some of the names that we've mentioned, like, no, like, it's not like these are just kind of like like this is a connection. Like, no, these guys are my best friends. These are the people who I hang out with every single day. So to see some of the toxicity that the sports gambling world has created out there amongst the common fan base, I want no part of that world.
It's so crazy that it's at everybody's fingertips now. Like you used to have to work to gamble on some sort of sports betting thing. You had to find like a bookie or something back in the day, right?
Yeah, you had to go find some dodgy guy.
Fly to Vegas and put down a bet. But like now it's so insane. It actually worries me that young people, we're just setting a precedence for them to basically throw away money, or it's a money grab, man. It's so dangerous, man. I think
the level of degeneracy is crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people just take it for granted, but it's like, I had to have a talk with my kid. I was like, hey, just so you know, not that he was doing it, but like he's super involved with sports. He follows the NFL like crazy, follows the UFC, follows golf, all this sort of stuff. And the ads that pop up on all of those YouTube things or when you're watching the event is, hey, bet here, bet MGM or whatever. That's not a normal thing. And we've just normalized it. And I think it could be detrimental to our youth, man, because
100%.
Yeah. It's so easy to bet the house on something.
Yeah, and when you have all of these major sporting organizations that are aligned with a particular sports betting entity, you can't tell me that there isn't at times some incentive or some influence to make sure that the house wins.
100%.
You've seen examples. They haven't been proven in any case, but there's some pretty questionable examples that have gone on in the NFL to the NBA. There's been the controversies like Tim Donaghy back in the day, but you're meaning to tell me, you want to look me in the face, you have powers that be, and say that Donaghy was the only guy that was involved? Absolutely not. Like, don't
No.
insult my intelligence in the process. Or some of these calls that come
Right.
down that will, we're pulling this touchdown off of the board. You know what I mean? Like ESPN themselves, ESPN is ESPN Bet. So you're meaning to tell me that there's not some sort of vested interest at times to make sure that the house doesn't win, or that the whatever the over or whatever the thing doesn't hit. You're meaning to tell me that there's not a call that comes down from Vegas or from New York at some point in time to say like, hey, this has to go this way? I just don't believe it. I think that it's created such a crazy atmosphere out there that there's so much money that is going in all different directions, and it's so easy for, I mean, we don't know how deep the player involvement goes.
Right.
That's the thing too, is they're able to sift some stuff out in a lot of cases, but it could be as simple as with some of these little player props, like we saw, and they only got busted because of them having stupid text messages, but the pictures from the Indians this last year.
Oh, right.
And the guy reacting to like, bro, you can't be out there getting pissed off when you just struck a guy out, but that gives them reason to think like, oh, well, what's he involved in? Let's take a look into this. Because you would think that you just struck a guy out. That's good, right? Why are you screaming, fuck, on the mound after you just struck a guy out? Well, you weren't supposed to strike the guy out.
Right.
Based off of the player props.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And I think some of it goes back to like some of these organizational incentives too, like that they have in the NFL for like, you get X amount of catches, you get $1 million bonus. Or it's insane.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's some of those where you know that it could be on both ends. There's some organizations that are player friendly where you know that, okay, you're coming into week 18 and you need 3 catches to be able to get this $500,000 incentive that's in your contract, whatever the number is. We even saw a few years back, one of the more notable or the popular stories of it was Gronk's year down there in Tampa Bay with Brady, where they basically just drew up a play right there in the huddle to make sure that Gronk got his catch to be able to get his incentive bonus. There's a lot of organizations, though, that they don't want to have to do that, or they will figure out a way that, you know what, this guy needs 3 catches today to go hit that $500,000 bonus. Let's run the ball a lot in the second half. Let's do some different things to where that isn't on the table or that doesn't happen. There's certain organizations that absolutely do that, and players have came out and have spoken to that throughout the history. And it's not just brand new. Like the incentive stuff, that's happened for as long as incentives have been a part of pro athlete contracts.
Yeah.
But you add that to, okay, now there's betting entities where there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are on the
you can
line.
bet on that exact bonus. You can bet on anything, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Or then the way that you have some players like the Rozier guy in basketball, like, okay, well, I'm gonna make sure that my under hits. I'll play hard for the first couple of quarters, and then, oh man, my hammies hurt.
Right.
Certain just shenanigans like that. Is it legit? Is it not? What's the story here? I think that it goes so much deeper than the guys that have already been busted, and it's a shame in that sense because we're losing the integrity of what sports are right before our eyes, and it's because of the culture that gambling has created. Again, I was a guy who, back in the day, when you said like having to find some crazy characters to go out there and place bets with all that, I was one of those guys back then.
Yeah.
But through the years, I've just shifted away from that because of how crazy and how toxic that it's been, and it was something that was very much a counterculture thing. And I don't know, maybe it's, you mentioned kind of the punk rock angle of stuff earlier on, like maybe that is a little bit of like the punk in me of like, once stuff gets too mainstream, like I don't really want to be a part of it. Maybe it's a subconscious thing, but then it also was just a little bit of an extra push knowing from the lead dog legally from the UFC, like, hey, don't be a part of this.
Yeah,
Cool.
When that comes down and you're part of the organization, you listen, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, don't want to bite the hand,
No, hell no. Speaking of that, let's pull up 324's card real quick. Is there anybody from Factory X on 324? Is it only 325?
325.
Okay.
But it's definitely
But it's still a
awesome
Colorado
matchups on 324.
Heavy card on 324.
And some connections to it from other guys that have fought against like Chris Gutierrez, one of my good friends. He fought Song Yadong in a UFC main event. There's like, if you just look at those few fights that you're seeing right there, that's that to me, this could be a sleeper fight or a breakout party for Song Yadong. Song Yadong could very well be a potential champion in the bantamweight division. I think the bantamweight division is the most talent-stacked division in the entire sport. 155 is always going to be one of the top dogs, but I think right now with the amount of talent that is existing in the 135-pound class, I think that they're pound for pound the most talented division.
If you're not checking out the Mountainside podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell.
I think that that's got to be one of the highest level interest fights that there's been around in quite some time.
And Rose is on this card as well, right?
I believe she fights Amanda, she fights Natalia Silva. Yeah, Natalia Silva. That's going to be an interesting fight. You know, I still, like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Rose, but I think that she is a really good fighter at 125 pounds, whereas she was the GOAT at 115.
Yes.
So I think that extra 10 pounds does kind of make a difference off of what she did some of the best. You know, when she was at her peak, when she was at her prime and as a champion at 115, part of what made her so good was her fluidity of movement, the way that she was able to essentially just be a poet in motion. She put the art in martial artists when she was fighting at 115 with her boxing combinations and everything.
My favorite female of all time to watch at 105, hands down.
115?
Or 115, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
But Natalia Silva, though, Natalia Silva is hungry. She's on the right side of 30. She has an interesting style with a lot of movement that I think could potentially bring some issues. Her kicking game with her Taekwondo background, she's going to present an interesting challenge for Rose. Rose obviously has the experience advantage. I think she's by far the superior grappler, but styles make fights.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have a potential matchup in the heavyweight division with Derrick Lewis and Waldo Cortez Acosta. Cortez Acosta, he's kind of caught fire in these last few fights, but Derrick Lewis is one of those guys that he's always going to be in a heavyweight fight no matter what, because he has just, I mean, he's the knockout king for a reason.
Yeah.
He has that kiss of death sort of power, and if Cortez Acosta fights a firefight the way that he has with a couple of these other heavyweights, obviously, yeah, he could land his shot, and at heavyweight, everybody's one shot away.
Anything could happen in this, right?
But you want to go bang it out with the Black Beast, it might be a very bad night for you. You might end up face down, ass up with him hitting the celebration and going, taking his cup off, throwing it out to the crowd, twisting his shorts, saying his balls are hot, saying about how he's going to go dig into his wife after. Just one of the most entertaining guys in the cage and on the mic that the UFC has had.
The best.
He's pure entertainment.
The best.
I mean, that's why he's remained so relevant even through some of his ups and downs of his streaks, is because he is such must-see TV. Or you go put him in the press conferences, and when he was fighting against Gunnar, like the French people were like, well, excuse my French, but fuck you and fuck him too. Like just all that sort of shit. Yeah. Like there's a reason. His timing, like he doesn't even try to be that hilarious at times. And he just is.
No, he's stone cold hilarious is what it is. Yeah.
I'm mad at DC for what he did to that Popeye's chicken.
Right.
Disrespecting it on the commercial, like those sort of things. That fight, that's flying under the radar. The featherweight bout that you're seeing right there, Arnold Allen and Gene Silva. Gene Silva, obviously that fight didn't go his way at Noche against Diego, but that dude's a bad SOB. Mm-hmm. You know, the way that he fights, he comes for it every single time. And I mean, he got finished in the process of trying to walk Diego down. Arnold Allen, though, I mean, Arnold Allen is a tremendous fighter. Arnold Allen, I don't know that he's ever completely been the same since the loss to Max Holloway, but at the same time, still a very highly talented guy, and that could be a good bounce back opportunity for Gene Silva, or it could be a really good opportunity for Arnold Allen to say, hey, I really still am him. I am still one of the top contenders of this division. And let's see who else we got. Umar and Davison. I think that
this is I want to see this.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an exciting fight, but I do believe that, you know, Davison's close to 40 now at this point. I think he's either 38 or 39, and just Father Time is undefeated. You know, it doesn't speak well for guys that are 145-pound weight class and below, this being at 135. Umar is in his prime. Umar is, he's somebody who has title potential. I don't know if he'll be able to get over the hump. Obviously, he lost to Merab. I don't know if he'll be able to get over the hump with somebody like Jan that's out there in the mix. And then also the sleeping dragon with, pun intended in that sense, is Yadong Song.
Yep.
Because that dude is getting better with every single outing. This dude right over here, though, in the middleweight bout, Atiba Gaultier, that's going to be an exciting fight one way or the other, him and Plive. But that dude from Cameroon is a problem. I mean, he is a wrecking machine. He's an absolute juggernaut. Every single time this guy goes out there, he is going for a finish, and he's a don't blink sort of fighter. He's that sort of guy who, this is not the fight, especially with it being on the prelims, this isn't the fight to go have a bathroom break or to go get yourself a snack or have some vitamins, some food, whatever. This is a dude that you don't want to miss as soon as that fight starts because he could end it in a single strike.
This is why I love having you in here. Now you got me excited to watch this one.
Yeah, that's an exciting matchup right there. Yeah, that dude is an absolute wrecking ball.
Yeah, this card is just stacked.
Yeah, and then that's a matchup of a couple of vets right there. Nikita Krylov out of the Ukraine and Modestas Bukauskas. Modestas Bukauskas has had a few ups and downs throughout his run, had a tenure where he had to go back to the regional scene, has had some success since he's been back in the UFC. That's probably the least, I guess, eye-drawing fight so far that we've seen from the card.
Yeah.
But the next one here on the early prelims, this one is one of those, or both of these fights actually. Alex Perez is a former roommate of mine. Absolutely love Alex Perez. I mean, I just talked to him.
Where's he
2 days
fighting
ago.
out of now?
He's out of California. He was only out here in Colorado for a little while, but he's out of California, but he lives and trains in Vegas now. He trains with guys like Cody Garbrandt and all of them, largely out of the PI. But Charles Johnson is another good friend of mine. I love Charles Johnson. I've known him since back in the LFA days. He fought Brandon Royval in an absolute banger on a Nebraska card back then, was an LFA champion multiple times over, was a dude who was a steeplechase guy when he was younger and going through prep sports, so elite level conditioning. He then went out to Thailand, was a scholarship winner for Tiger Muay Thai, has a decorated background across a bunch of different martial arts out there. He fought on the Denver card and actually knocked out Joshua Van, the current flyweight champion, on Denver card. 3rd round TKO knockout. I mean, we've got videos and photos of us in the barbershop together right before that fight. He's, like I say, he's another good dude, a really good guy, family guy, loves his family, does everything for them, both of them. I mean, Alex with his son, Noah, awesome. Charles with his wife and his son. And then this bout opening it up. Are you fucking kidding me that you get Michael Johnson and Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez opening it up? Obviously, I'm biased towards Alex. Alex, a good friend of mine. I've shot a lot of content with Alex through the years. Also used to train under Alex when he was still at our gym. You know, he's somebody who I have a close personal connection with. Him going up against somebody like Michael Johnson, and Alex is on a tremendous run himself right now. He's 4 in a row, riding off of what he had, like 3 knockouts in basically like a couple of months that he had throughout the end of last year. He was a guy who he was on a bit of a treacherous path at one point, was on the backside of a couple of losses, but then has been able to rebound handsomely. He was one of my contenders for comeback fighter of the year last year. I had to give it to Piotr Jan just because Jan being able to come back from a 3-fight losing streak to then now get his belt back and become the champion, but I digress. Alex Hernandez being a dude who has crazy knockout power. You have somebody like Michael Johnson, who Michael Johnson is, to me, he's the ultimate enigma. Michael Johnson is a guy who has wins over guys like Tony Ferguson. He was the last guy to beat Tony Ferguson before Tony Ferguson went on that illustrious streak. He had the knockout against Dustin Poirier. He has some big wins over some top-name guys, but there's also nights where Michael Johnson doesn't have that same sort of performance in him. But he's a very quality vet in any sort of time that he goes, but he's also someone who's willing to step in the fire. Maybe, dare I say, that he's a guy who's left a lot of himself in the gym. We've seen a lot of footage throughout the years of him going to war, whether it was Black Zillions, Hard Knocks 365, Sanford to now Killcliff. That it's all the same gym, all the same, just multiple changeovers as far as the name goes, with guys like Kamaru Usman to Jason Jackson to some of those other elite high-level guys where they're just having blood and guts rounds in the gym. I think that as long as Alex stays disciplined with his game plan, and I'm not going to put anything out there with it just because I've been in the room with him, if he stays disciplined to what he is looking to do and where he sees his opportunities, I think that this could be another big highlight reel performance for Alex. Alex has knockouts over some of the biggest names out there too. Guys like Beneil Dariush. That was who he made his UFC debut against. What a crazy guy to come in and have to fight a ranked dude immediately, and you go out there and you spark him. Like, just crazy.
It's wild. And then rolling on to 324, I'm just as excited for that just because we have so many homies on the card.
Yeah.
I mean, two of my favorite people in the world being Dustin Jacoby and Cody Brundage.
Yep.
I mean, that makes me excited. But then, I mean, look at this. This is stacked.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at that main event fight, there's a lot of people who drew ire to this matchup of Diego getting the title shot again. They fought last year at, I believe it was, I want to say it was 314 in Miami.
Yeah, what do you think? Is it deserving?
When you're looking at it from an entertainment perspective, it's hard to beat Diego.
Right.
When you're also looking at it from a business or a demographics perspective, Diego's a star here in America. He's a massive star in Brazil and Mexico. The other two guys that were ahead of him, if we're looking at this truly from a sport
Is this
or
in
a
Sydney? Where's
in Sydney? Yep.
Okay.
But if you're looking at it from a purely meritocratic standpoint, it is kind of hard to say that Diego should be the guy because he had the win against Silva.
Right.
And, were you to really say that this was a title eliminator bout?
And I love
tough to
Diego,
say.
and like no disrespect. Like I think is a fan favorite,
But when we're talking about what we circle back to with Paramount earlier, that they want entertaining fights. And if say that you lose, or if Volk were to be usurped for this belt, well, you have somebody who's going to bring the fight every single time. When you look at who are the other two qualified contenders from a pure sport or a meritocratic standpoint that people were saying should have gotten the shot, one of them is Movsar Avoyev. The other one is Lerone Murphy. Two people know who Lerone Murphy is and less know who Avoyev is.
Yeah.
So that's my point right there. You have Avoyev, who is an undefeated guy who's the number one ranked contender at 145 pounds, but he's never had a finish in the UFC. Outside of when Lerone Murphy finished Aaron Pico, he was a decisionator over the course of the last few years. It had been years since he had a finish. So when we're talking about when they're trying to find ROI on this big investment for the deal, when you're looking at it from more of an entertainment business aspect that just happens to encompass sport, that's where you realize why Diego was the go-to guy. Volk even said it in the process that he said, like, hey, he didn't think that Diego was going to be the guy that got the nod, but he said the UFC was pushing it hard. Said, and it's for all of those reasons.
This is going to be system overload after the break that we've had, like 3 weeks. I'm having withdrawal a little bit, dude.
I'm like, so hard. Like I watched RAF this weekend like it was a UFC card, the Real American Freestyle.
Yeah.
That's such a badass show. I'm bought in on that product.
Yeah.
But then you get a lightweight bout between Dan Hooker and Benoit Saint-Denis.
Insane too. I can't wait to watch this.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's getting finished in this fight.
Yeah.
I don't foresee this one going all 15, but it's a tremendous fight on paper. Both guys who bring the violence, who bring it every single time. Now, and both guys who could totally finish each other in the process. I don't think that you're going to see it go to the ground. I think that you're going to see him kind of stand and bang. I think that if somebody were to shoot or somebody tries to grapple, it's going to be Benoit. I don't think that it's going to be Hooker. But I also feel like Dan Hooker could very well find a knee up the middle if Benoit decides to go that direction. Benoit's got some crazy momentum going for him right now, though, too.
Yeah.
He was saying that, he thinks that he should get a title shot next after, well, he's not going to get a title shot next. He's going to have to probably have at least one more fight after this to be able to get to that point.
What is he ranked right now?
He's definitely he's a top
15.
rank. He's number 8.
Number 8.
But
okay.
when with the dynamic that you have going on right now at the top of 155, you have
it's crazy.
Well, you have the interim title fight that's happening the week before. Then you also have in the coming weeks from that, you have the BMF fight between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. So that's two guys who could potentially be inserted into that next title shot. And then the elephant in the room is the situation that's happening with Arman. Mm-hmm. Arman is, by far and large, he's the number one contender at 155 pounds. That's just kind of on the outside looking in right now. Some of it's political, for sure, and some of it is his own doing. Arman has done some stuff to pull himself out of favor. He punched the fan at UFC 300 on his walkout. That was one kind of a big black eye to conduct issues.
Why the fuck would you do that, man? That's so stupid. It's
dumb.
the dumbest thing ever.
he had the situation where he was supposed to fight for a title shot, and that's kind of what the UFC is positioned was. He knows what he did, and they've never came out and publicly said it. But those who are in the know. I mean, this is me saying it from being somebody on the inside. It wasn't a back injury where he had to pull out against Islam. It wasn't some back injury that just came out of nowhere. Especially when you saw all the things that he was doing, like with Nina drama and all that throughout the week. No, he didn't have a back injury. He wasn't going to make the weight. He wasn't going to make championship weight, so he didn't fight because he wasn't going to be eligible to win the belt. That's when then they have to insert Moicano and last second change, the 11th hour before. Well, the UFC invested however many millions into promoting that fight. That's going to be something that is a black eye on you as far as your professionalism. And then he has a chance to really kind of go out there and really amplify himself in the Dan Hooker fight that happened on the Qatar card. And then you go out and you have no control once again, and you headbutt Dan Hooker in the face-off, and you break his nose. Luckily, Dan Hooker is such a gamer that he was like, nah, I'm still going to fight.
Yeah.
But if that was somebody else, or that could have gone a little, what if he cuts him open right there? What if Dan Hooker is a little bit more than just a broken nose and he's concussed or can't really go? If something like that happens, just for example's sake, if that were to happen here in Colorado, per the commissioner himself, if there is contact that is made at a face-off, the fight is scratched. So he's lucky that was
as it should be, man. Like, save it. It's a day away, 24 hours.
Yeah, and there's a difference of if you were to, like some guys will push or the little shove or whatever, like Dustin had that happen with Kudalab at that point. That, some of it does produce a little bit of entertainment, but there's also the case like where you have some guys where Jakar Close, he got pushed and he got jarred so much that he couldn't fight because of the whiplash, because he wasn't expecting to get pushed, and you're just fresh off of making weight. You're real depleted.
Yeah.
And then you can't go compete the next day. There's obviously the angle where, you can say it kind of builds the grudge match element and you go and sell the fight. But there's also a difference of when you're throwing a strike, a headbutt directly to somebody's face, and Arman is the shorter guy, so the crown of his head was right in Dan Hooker's nose, breaks his nose before the fight even starts. Crazy. So those things, I believe, have been factors that have kind of discredited Arman in the UFC's eyes.
Yeah.
But then some of the other
in my eyes too, as a fan, like I don't want to see any of that crap. Like,
and I don't know. I'm not the biggest Arman fan, so I'm not the greatest one to ask in that process. Is he absolutely incredibly talented, and do I believe that he is by actual accomplishment with some of the names that he's beaten? Is he the number one contender at 155? Definitely. Especially the way that he's dispatched of some dudes extremely quickly. I thought that it was a questionable decision against Charles Oliveira, but what I think doesn't matter. It's what the three judges that were sitting ringside or sitting cage side in that sense thought. That fight with Rafael Fiziev against Mauricio Rufy.
This is crazy too, man.
You can't tell me that that's not going to be entertainment.
That's going to be fireworks.
That's a striker's delight right there.
Yeah. That's going to be awesome.
Rufy, who had a knockout of the year contender last year with that wheel kick against Bobby Green. And then Rafael
That was
Fiziev.
crazy. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Fiziev he's pure striking. He's a Muay Thai specialist, and you're going to get to see two dudes who love to bang it out on the feet, and we'll see. Can Rafael Fiziev be able to enter the matrix against somebody like Rufy, who I believe he's not going to be with the Fighting Nerds for this fight. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I believe, like at least from a few weeks back, they said that he had kind of separated and gone different ways. Whether or not they've reconvened, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out between those guys. You have the return of Tai Tuivasa.
You're going to see some shoeies in there.
Oh, definitely. And he fights an absolute
in Australia?
giant.
Come on.
Against Taliesin Teixeira. I'll just, this is one where I'm biased in that I want to see Tai win.
Yeah.
Tai's had a streak of some losses. He took some time away, heal his brain, heal his body. There's a point where Tai was really big, where you saw him just partying and loving life. Hopefully he's back into some solid fighting condition and he's able to go out there, throw up the FTA, for the area that he does for his Australian crew out there and gets to do the shoey. That's what all the fans want to see, obviously.
Yep.
But it's a very dangerous opponent at the same time, and that's a big difference that he's going to have to deal with in height and reach.
It's big boys.
Absolutely. Then, man, right here, Jimmy Crute and Dustin Jacoby. obviously Jimmy Crute is dangerous. There's no doubt about it. Jimmy Crute is a bull in there. I think that his pressure is going to work to his detriment. Dustin Jacoby is legitimately one of the best strikers that the division has ever seen. He's a former Glory Kickboxing title challenger. He's had tremendous success throughout his UFC run. I mean, a couple of fights where a decision nod went the other way in a very close fight. You know, what happens if he doesn't get screwed against Khalil? What happens if he doesn't have the second round mishap in the Alonzo Menefield fight at UFC 296? You know, there's a couple of little things that just
he'd be right there.
He'd be right there in the mix. The only real true hard loss that I believe you could say with him is the Dominic Reyes fight. You know, that one was one where, hey, Dominic just happened to call the right number on that night, and when you're fighting against the elite of the elite, sometimes it's your night, sometimes it's not. But Dustin is such a savvy guy. His grappling is underrated. His striking is sniper-like. His hand speed is ridiculous. His
not
kicking
to mention going in compromised into some of these fights,
right. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't see is how compromised Dustin's been in some of them, but still being
ripped
a gamer.
his fucking toe off.
Dude, I was 3 feet away when it happens when he comes over. Yeah, and his toe is just oozing just like chunks of blood out of it.
He told the story on here, and what a fucking knockout in that fight too, man.
Absolute G.
Yeah. We just made a clip. We had Telly in a few episodes ago and made a clip, and I used that as I love that knockout, man.
And he has, there's some intel that we as a team already have on Jimmy Crute because Anthony fought him a few years ago.
Right.
And Dustin being a big part always with Anthony's camps, there's a certain level of intel that's already there. So I think that that's potentially a really good night for
Let's go Dustin.
For Dustin, for sure. This one, though, I think that this Quillen Salkid kid, this dude might be one of the next real deals at 155. He was my rookie of the year for last year. He went 3-0 in the UFC last year, 2 finishes. His first finish was like a 19-second punch. His last fight of last year was that head kick knockout against Nasrat Hopcroft, where John Anik was in the middle of just, it was an early knockout where he completely flatlined him on the feet. I mean, Nasrat is, he's lights out on the feet, falls stiff as a board down to the canvas where he's talking about how his parents own a bakery. Boom, knockout. And then
crazy.
My favorite story with Hangzhou is John Anik saying that this is what I tell the cops when they pull me over. You got the wrong Jew.
Yeah. I love John Anik, man.
Yeah, absolutely love Anik.
The best.
Best play-by-play that MMA's ever had.
100%.
Respect to Mauro Ranallo, to some of the other guys out there. I think that Anik is the best.
Yeah, agreed.
That one, whatever.
Yeah.
Junior Tafa's whatever. They go out there, they'll fight. Cam Roston and Cody Brundage. I mean, I think that on any given night, Cody Brundage has elite level tools that can compete with anybody in the division. It's just a matter of Cody being able to get out of Cody's way at times. I think that he has legit wrestling. He's a solid submission grappler. He's competed on multiple shows for us on CJJC. Actually just had a big finish at one of our last cards at the end of 2025. Cam Roston is a kid who has a lot of bright potential. Obviously, he's the hometown kid being from down there in Australia, but I think that he's going to go in there and he's going to have to face a live dog. When Cody lets it fly, he was a contender for one of the comeback fights of the year last year, and that brawl that he had with Julian Marquez.
Yep.
I thought that he won the fight against McConaughey, but sometimes on the judges' score, again, it doesn't matter what I think; it matters what the judges see. But I thought that he won that fight. But when he bites down and goes, and if Cody's able to get into a flow, he's a tough kid to beat. I mean, I get to see what he does in the gym, and from an objective analysis standpoint, he's got tremendous tools. He'll be the first one to admit, though, that sometimes it's just a matter of, and it's any fighter. If there's anybody out there, they'll say, I just got to get out of my own way. If Cody is able to separate everything else on the outside and just go be free and find his flow state in there, he's a tough kid to beat. And I think that he can compete with a lot of the top guys at 185 pounds.
I'm wishing him the best, man. One of my favorite people.
Absolutely.
Love that dude.
Jacob Malkoun, I think that he just ragdolls Therese Finney. Therese Finney, obviously, he's a crazy build. being that
he's fucking jacked, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's wider than he is tall type of guy.
Yeah.
5'8" is generous,
Yeah.
for the record. But Malkoun, I think, is he's the vastly superior grappler. I don't think that he can definitely put him out on the feet, but I just think that he has such a advantage on the
That
canvas.
reach at 5'8" is insane, too. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely got some crazy dimensions in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not completely sold on Therese Finney. Obviously, his record is unblemished at this stage, but I'm just not overly sold on him as a top tier talent.
Man, these two cards, what an exciting time to be an MMA fan. That's all I got to say.
Oh, for sure. I think that Oban Elliott is another exciting prospect. You know, he's a guy who's had some fun fights already in the UFC. He's going up against another hometown kid. He's got the experience advantage, but I think you're going to see a fight where these guys on the early part of the card, they're going to go out there and they're going to try to get that Australian crowd riled up.
It's so crazy. I can't keep up with this. Like some of these guys, I don't even know. It's so saturated now compared to what it used to be. And with as many fights, how are you keeping up with all of this? Is it just a constant study?
It's my job.
Yeah.
That's I guess that's in a nutshell. That's the best way that I can put it. But I mean, it's tough even on my side of things to keep up with absolutely everybody in the process because there is such a revolving door. You know, there is always guys that are on the way out to they're bringing in an entire wave of 10 weeks worth of prospects every single year with the Contender Series on top of who are some of the other signees at different points of the year. There's the Road to the UFC Series, which is basically like an audition style format from the Asian market. There's guys that come in from the Ultimate Fighter series that still come into the mix. There's also the rumors that they're going to do a second season of Contender now that they're going to be on the Paramount platform. So there's going to be 20 weeks worth. It's a crazy place, or it's a crazy situation. This dude, Aaron Tao, he fought one of my boys on the Contender Series, and you know he lost. But this kid he's one of those Maori type warriors who's gonna go out there, do the haka, do all the craziness, and win or lose, the guy's gonna go out there and try to absolutely bring it.
I love those guys.
Yeah, some people, you know, they say
stuff.
There's some fans that don't understand that culture don't understand like the whole like pulling the head like the Kai Kara France or some of those things, but like I don't know, I guess like you don't need to necessarily understand it, but I've always been one who I love the haka, like all the way back to seeing it with like the rugby teams like the All Blacks or some of them way back when that was some of the first that I had seen it way back in the day, just on like YouTube videos or probably even before YouTube. Just like when like whether it was like E-bombs or whatever some of those early like video sharing sites back then were, I just always thought that it was cool, just something different.
And knowing some of them personally, they are some of the most just awesome people to be around, and some of the scariest.
Oh, definitely. And for some of these guys, you know, depending on what part of the world that they come from, like this is it. Like this is like the absolute
It's
ticket.
their culture.
Right. The fight culture is absolutely everything that they have done their entire life. Or for some of them, like I just...
Not only that, for genetically for thousands of years, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do an MMA personality series started off with my TikTok, and I've been putting it on my Instagram though too. But one of the guys that's coming up on it is Korean Zombie.
Yes.
And so for some of those guys,
I love those, by the way, dude. It's so you're doing a great job with those.
But like culturally, for some of those guys, and it's not just Zombie. I mean, it's other guys like Korean Wonder Boy or Superboy. You know, some of the, like Doo-Ho Choi's to like that fight that he had with Cub Swanson way back when. One of the best fights ever in the UFC. Also another one that just flies under the radar. But it's kind of a cultural thing that like you go out there and it's kill or be killed. You have to absolutely leave yourself in there, or like it's almost like you're frowned upon going home if you took the easy way out. Or, you know, like for some of these cultures and just talking with some of these guys out there, like it's frowned upon if you were to tap to a submission, like if you were to tap to a choke, like no, like you better go to sleep. Otherwise, like you're going to be like chastised.
It's that true warrior mindset. Yeah.
So it's just craziness all the way around, the warrior spirit. And we see a lot of it with a lot of our Colorado footprint guys, but I love the Mexican fight culture too.
Yes.
Because it is just absolute war. One of the kids who we're going to have on our next Combat Club card, he was a champion for us back in his amateur days, has fought with us a couple of times as a pro, but Miguel Barrientos, who this kid, he says it even in an interview. Like he says, like when you ask him, like, okay, what is your style? What's your style of fighting? He goes, Mexican. It's war. I go to kill or be killed. Like he will tell you that quote for quote, bar for bar. That's what he will say in the process. Just that sort of thought process.
I love that.
Just exists within like that fight culture as a whole.
Yeah.
Even though he's American, but he's Mexican roots. One of my best friends in the world, Brandon Royval, same sort of situation. He could have very definitely gone and chose the grappling route, which he has the definite advantage over a guy like Joshua Van at UFC 317 last year at International Fight Week. But he wanted to go out there and have a kill or be killed sort of fight. He wanted to go out there and put on a show.
So exciting to watch, man.
That was an instant classic that broke volume records that 5-round, 25-minute fights don't do. They did it within 15. Can you imagine
so crazy
what would have happened if they would have had an extra 2 rounds? I mean, selfishly, I wish that they would have had an extra 2 rounds because I think Brandon would have been able to pull away in the championship rounds, but that's neither here nor there at this point.
Right. Man, it's awesome. Exciting stuff. We got to wrap this up, man. We're coming up on time. We've been at it for 2 hours.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It flies by,
It flies, man.
Time machine. But before we jump, what do you got going on? What do you got coming up? What do you want to plug? This is your platform.
Yeah, so just a few plugs out there. I'll plug a couple of sponsors before I go on with some of the shows. So I want to give a plug to Q&P Co. They're a hat and merchandise company out of the Denver area. Nice. They support our combat sports community. They've definitely supported me a lot in the process. Also want to give a shout out to Vinny and Marie's Italian. It's a new brick and mortar that just opened up in Arvada, but it was a food truck that was around for a few years. Big supporter of mine. Roots that we have all the way back to when we were kids. He's catered some of our fight cards where he would post up the food truck right outside of the fight shows.
I'm going to be trying it. 60% Italian blood, brother.
Oh, my man, you have to absolutely go and try it.
Right.
Big Jim, he's the owner. He's my boy, Jim Pino, Jimmy the Wolf. Great place.
Let's go down there together, dude.
Dude, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's do it one night.
Anytime that you want to, we
Derrick?
got you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be. You will not be disappointed at all. I mean, they completely sold out of everything in the store on Saturday, only a few hours into opening. That's how amazing their food is and how much of a takeoff that they've had so far since opening.
I'm having withdrawals from Rome.
Oh, yeah. And I got to meet Chris Cerrone from Goodfellas there on New Year's, too.
Oh, no shit.
Going in there. Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
that was cool. But then on the flip side, I want to just plug a couple of my shows. I got the MMA plug on Mile High Sports. That's every
Great
Wednesday.
show. Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate you. That's every Wednesday at 2 p.m. That's been a long-standing program on the platform. We've had a couple of different changes in time slots, but 2 p.m. every week, but you could always catch the replays on that Mile High Sports YouTube channel. I write for punchdrunkgamer.com, so a lot of MMA or combat sports-related content that goes through punchdrunkgamer.com. Comments from the Peanut Gallery on Instagram as well as on YouTube. Then on TikTok, which has kind of been like the new thing that I'm trying to grow and take off on just because all the business potential that's on that is the Peanut Gallery MMA. So those are kind of the big things for me on that side. But Bob, I'm so thankful that you had me on, man. I love talking shop with you. I could sit here and just bullshit about fights all night long.
I love having you in, man, because it's like going to school, MMA school for me. I'm such a fan of it. And you're a fucking expert at it, dude. So I love what you're doing. Keep crushing it.
Thank you.
You're always welcome here. So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, make sure that you hit that like, share, and follow button with these guys. If you are tuning in just from my side coming over here, it's always great content that Bobby's putting out. It's a lot of different people across different walks of life, whether it's on the endurance athlete side of things, the real rugged mountain or cowboy sort of people out there in the mix, to athletes and performance people. It's a great mix of conversations that you're going to have across all walks of life. So coming from your boy, please smash that subscribe button for these guys and support them.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Derrick, thanks for being here.
Thank you,
Jordan. I love you, brother. Thanks
you too,
for coming
brother.
up tonight.
Absolutely,
All right,
man. Thank you.
Let's go. Let's go Cody Brundage and Dustin Jacoby too. Let's
X
go
on the
smash.
chest, baby.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.